Awesome. Well, welcome. For those of you that do not know me, my name is Helena Miller. I am a holistic health practitioner here at Rassel-Daigneault Holistic Health Center and have been for 8-9 years now. My background is in respiratory therapy. I did that for 20 years. About 10 years in, I discovered one major thing, and that was that my patients weren't actually getting better. You know, we would tune them up and send them home, and they'd just come right back in the same, if not worse, condition. Their bag of pharmaceuticals would start the quart size, perhaps, and then over time, as they deteriorated, they had more and more medications, and they went from the quart size to the gallon size of pharmaceuticals. And then would come the day where I would then have to put them on life support and care for them in the ICU, and then a lot of the times, unfortunately, I'd have to take them off life support, hug their families, and tell them I'm sorry. So at the 10-year mark, it was when I started dabbling in how can you get your body well naturally. So that's what I call it, dabbling, because I was just reading various things, watching various doctors on YouTube and all the things, and that's when I discovered this weird thing called muscle testing. And it was fascinating to me, and I was constantly driven to videos of people muscle testing. And it's really important to me, for me personally, to have a healthy family. And I'm a mama bear, and I have 4 grandchildren, so I'm a great grandma mama bear. I don't know what you call that, but that's me. And so it's really important for me to be healthy for my family. I don't want to be a burden, and I want to teach other mama bears how to be healthy for their baby bears and their family. So that's why we're here tonight. We're going to discuss a lot of tricks, tips, and tricks of the trade. That's the wrong one. In order for you to be able to get started right away with making changes in your diet and lifestyle that'll help protect your health and the health of your family. Okay, let me make sure this thing is on. And here we go. No? I think I need a new battery. Because it's not working.
I don't know.
I should have checked that ahead of time.
I don't know where batteries are, dude.
I do. In the back office cabinet. Brandy's probably still here.
Yeah, I can go ask her.
Yeah, well, I'll keep talking.
Like this. Yeah.
Thank you. So, my daughter in kindergarten got signs of a UTI. Like she's wet in her pants all of a sudden in kindergarten, and urgency. So I took her to the pediatrician, because I'm a good mom, right? I take her to the pediatrician. They do a urinalysis and it's negative. And I'm like, what? She's got all the classic symptoms, right? So they wouldn't treat it. So the doctor just gave me a note and wrote a note for the teacher to let her go on a schedule every 2 hours. Well, that didn't work. So a week or so later, I take her back to the pediatrician. Again, they do a urinalysis. Again, it's negative. Again, they're not treating it. And at this point, they decide, well, perhaps we need a specialist. So they refer me to a specialist, a pediatrician. So, you know, it takes a while to get into a specialist, right? Even back then, even worse now, but back then it still took a long time. So by the time I get to see the specialist with her, it's been a month. She's been suffering. She can't go from the south side of town to the west side of town, 10-minute drive, without crying at me that she's got to go, right? And I was frustrated. I felt hopeless or helpless. Like, what do? I can't do anything. They won't help me. And so we get to the specialist's office. And they, again, do another urinalysis. Again, it's negative, which I told them it's not, it's going to be negative. Then they had to do a physical exam, which wasn't comfortable for me or for her, but I understood why they had to do it. I knew anatomically nothing was wrong, but they had to do that. And then the doc talks about XYZ, blah, 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 right? Thank you. The doc talks about, it could be A, B, C, or D. Gives me a chart, fill this out, blah, blah, blah. I don't even remember what it was. Something, when she wakes up, when she poops, when she pees, something stupid like that. Like, how is this gonna help anybody understand what's going on? Come back in a month. It's already been a month. And I'm like, what are you talking about, right? So I left there very discouraged, knowing that I was never gonna go back. I left there knowing that I was going to get in my car and I was going to call the doctor's office that I found that I could drive to from watching those videos of the weird stuff, right? And I did that. The very next day I called the office and I scheduled her appointment for the following Thursday, and we went after school. She started nutritional supplements on Friday, and in 4 days she was better. By the end of next week, the following week, she was 100% back to normal. And that's when the light turned on in my mom brain. That's when I knew this is the thing that I've been dabbling for the whole time, because I knew I didn't want to be a respiratory therapist the rest of my life. I was not going to be an on-the-job retiree like my coworkers were, I knew I was going to be miserable pushing around that computer cart and running to codes and doing all the things at an older age. And so I found out on a return visit, like, am I qualified to do this work? How do I do this work? Where do I go for the training? And that, in a nutshell, is how I ended up here. And so that is my blessing. And I have a joyful obligation now to help people. So if you've had children, you know what this looks like, right? And this is the doctor saying, I'm afraid you have what's known as children. Yeah, some of us feel that way sometimes. I myself have felt that way. I even feel that way when my grandchildren are around, because they're busy, right? They're busy, they're everywhere, and they're doing all the things. Back to my daughter. This is a picture of her in the NICU. I was not a healthy mama. Not at all. I didn't realize how unhealthy I was, but I was not a healthy mama. This is day number 2 of birth. This is she was born on the 11th. She was 2 pounds, 14 ounces. I was preeclamptic starting at 29 weeks. I had blood pressures in the 190s over 100 kind of thing. I was on bed rest for 3 weeks, had to lay on my left side, if not for getting up to feed myself and bathing and all the things, right? I delivered her via C-section in the middle of the night or early morning hours. And I got to tell you, that was the scariest time of my life. I mean, literally, I was frightened. I didn't know how to hold this thing. Her skin was translucent, and my husband's wedding ring could literally fit over her hand like a bracelet. Yeah. But she's doing great. You saw the picture of her before. That was her with her leg up in the air by her ear. That was my daughter, and like 3 years ago. I love that picture. I can't take it off my laptop. But so this was one of my wake-up calls about my own health. Like, why can't I make a person successfully? And after her, I was not going to make any other babies. I was not going to do it. I was done. I'm not going through that again, I said to myself. But then I had a coming to Jesus with myself and just kind of regrouping. I started eating better and working out more, because guess what I was eating when I was pregnant with her? I was craving honeycombs and root beer, and I ate a ton of honeycombs and root beer. And this is what you get, right? Now, not everybody has that experience, I understand. However, that was mine. And so I definitely woke up a bit after that. In this country, 54% of our children are chronically ill. We're having a chronic disease epidemic. Am I right? Yeah, I mean, it's really evident. People are sicker than ever. They have no solutions. When people come to see us, they've been through all the doctors, they've had all the tests, and they have no answers quite often. and they're hopeless, right? They don't understand why their doctor can't give them the solutions that they're looking for. And then they come to us and they realize, well, wait a minute. And that's probably because my doctor was not looking for the root causes of why I was so sick, right? They were just trying to throw a medicine at me and see what stuck. And quite often, when the lab tests and all the other tests come back negative and the doctors are stumped, they try to put people on psych meds, anti-anxiety meds, things like that. That's what I've seen clinically. And so it is a challenge to have a healthy children and a healthy family, but we can rise to the occasion. The younger we start feeding our children real food, the better they do. In fact, even once children can eat solids, it's my belief that they should not have the baby jar food unless they absolutely have to. I believe that they should have cooked small chunks of food that they can pick up with their hands and shove in their mouth. And that shouldn't happen before 6 months of age when they can actually do that. It happens right around 6 months of age. But we love to shove a spoon in little babies' mouths way too early, and then half of it they spit back out, right? So the younger we start them with real food, the better. I have a young boy right now under my care, and his mom is on the struggle bus. He's 9 years old. She can't get him to eat any real food. He doesn't like this, he doesn't like that. He will eat meat sticks, finally. He doesn't eat a lot of it. He'll eat a burger, finally. And it's a struggle, and I feel bad for her because she wants him to be healthy, and he just doesn't eat real food. You know, he'll eat the fast foods, but that's, you know, that starts when they're little, right? When you let all that stuff in when they're little, then their palate just only wants that. And then when you really realize that they're not healthy enough and you want them to eat real food, it's a struggle. So we like to, in our office, we like to help mama bears, because when we get mama bear healthy, it trickles down to baby bears, right? Because mama bears run the roost, they're doing the cooking, they're doing the shopping, all the things. If they don't buy it, then they can't eat it. But it does have to be done on a gradient for all of us, right? Whether we're mama bears or baby bears, we can't just turn our lives upside down. We have to make incremental baby steps towards the bigger goal of eating as clean as possible. Dr. Price and Dr. Pottinger, these are two doctors that studied nutrition. Dr. Price was a dentist, and he wrote a book called Nutrition and Physical Degeneration. It's a very big book. I've read it and referenced it many times. If you like to read and you like to learn, I suggest it. It's pretty deep, pretty intense. But he found a correlation between tooth decay and nutritional deficiencies. So what he did is he studied indigenous people, and he discovered that when indigenous people were in their own area eating their own cultural food, they had beautiful teeth, beautiful mouth structure, they enjoyed great health. And then you take those same people and you put them into a more civilized environment where they're eating perhaps, and their lifestyle is perhaps not what they had before. It only took one generation for him to start seeing changes in their mouth structure and their dental caries and all the things. And so that interested me years ago because, you know, all of us don't get to have our wisdom teeth anymore, right? We're supposed to have wisdom teeth, but it's so natural for the dentist to say, well, you got to have those taken out. You don't have room for them. This is why. This is what he studied. He studied it's because generation after generation, our deficiencies are just such that we can't even fit all of our teeth, most of us. And then Dr. Pottinger, he studied cats. He studied the effect of food on cats and their adrenals. He followed offspring for 4 generations. One set of cats he fed raw diet and of raw meat, cod liver oil, and raw milk. And the other he fed them cooked meats and milk and cod liver oil. And what he discovered is generation after generation, the cats that had the cooked meats got sicker and sicker until they were, you know, maybe they're mangy, their teeth were falling out, they couldn't, you know, they weren't able to reproduce, that kind of thing. Okay, so this is, and then he discovered that's exactly what's happening with us as humans because of our deficiencies, right? This is what not only kids but adults today are dealing with. Because, you know, this autism epidemic is now 1 in 36 for some, if you ask. Apparently in California, 1 out of 12.5 boys in the state of California have autism diagnosis. But asthma, food allergies, eczema, we see a lot of eczema in our clinical practice, cancers, vaccine injuries, ADD, ADHD, obesity. Like I said, 54% of our kids are chronically ill. That's 1 or more diagnoses. So what are these kids going to do when they're 20? How are they going to feel when they're 30? How are they going to feel when they're 40? How many medications are they going to be on, right? If we don't put a halt to this, who knows? We're already in a population decline. And if our population is chronically ill, how are we going to remedy that? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. It's something I think about. Yeah, so these are my grandchildren. My grandchildren, I think. So removal of sugar and artificial dyes from your child's diet can work wonders for their behavior. Just those 2 things, in my opinion. If you have children and they're rambunctious and they don't listen well, and they can't sit still, perhaps you do an experiment. Perhaps you take a couple weeks and you remove the sugar and the dyes from their diet and see. Just sit back and observe, because I dare say that your children will probably behave much better. It may not be perfect, because again, they are just children, but perhaps they can concentrate better. Perhaps they can sit and listen to direction better. Perhaps they can do their homework better. So every time I do this workshop, I challenge adults out there, if you have children and they're unruly, maybe perhaps, and my grandchildren absolutely need to have a 2-week challenge of no sugar and food dyes. Absolutely. This was a school lunch menu from back in the day when my daughter was little. And this was before I even really started doing this work. But look at this. I mean, Cheerios, Cinnamon Sky Minis, fresh apple, and choice of milk. What kind of milk are the kids going to choose? Are they going to choose white milk, or are they going to choose chocolate milk? Let's be real. Okay? Rice Chex, graham crackers, fresh orange blended fruit juice, and choice of milk. String cheese. Hey, there's a little bit of protein. Banana muffin. Okay? Cinnamon flakes. Reduce sugar though, so they're thinking, perhaps we'll just reduce the sugar. Maple breakfast square, orange juice, and choice of milk. Fruit Loops, reduced sugar, spiced grams. So, I mean, how do we expect them to sit down and listen to direction in school after that kind of breakfast? It's like shooting yourself in the foot, right? And the lunches aren't much better. Obesity rates are just really sad for our children. Our children, especially now, they don't move enough. They don't go outside enough. And it's a problem, you know. I mean, children don't want to be obese. They're being led by their parents. They're being fed by their parents. And most of the time, their parents are obese. And they're learning these lifestyle and diets from their parents. And then they go to school, and guess what? These kids get bullied, don't they? Let's be honest. I mean, I remember being in elementary school, so you've got that psychosocial kind of element, plus they're already starting a lifestyle that's going to put them into a chronic disease pattern, especially as an adult, but probably as a child, right? A lot of our problems start in our gut, so I threw in this slide about acid reflux. We see this even with kids. We see this even with babies, right? Doctors want to give babies antacids, or, I mean, I don't know what the drug is called, but I know they do treat that in infants. And I'm thinking, well, how are they going to break down their food? How are they going to digest their proteins if we're suppressing their stomach acid? Instead of, and especially if they're a breastfed baby. What we really need to look at is what is mom eating that baby doesn't like, right? What is mom eating making baby spit up all the time? But even young children, toddlers, can definitely have problems with digestion. Apple cider vinegar helps. Adults are usually pretty easy to get that in. You just mix it with some water, but children, I don't know. You could add some honey to it, a little bit of cinnamon. That goes down a lot easier. But proteins putrefy when we don't digest them well, and fats become rancid, and carbohydrates ferment. I tell my patients all the time that bread you're eating, it's just going to sit in your gut and ferment. It's kind of like paper mache. Remember making paper mache as a kid, the water and the flour and all the things, and you strain the things and you put them on the balloon or whatever. That's what happens in your gut when you're eating all the breads. They don't break down easy if you don't digest them. And the problem comes up in the form of the reflux, or it goes down in the form of gas and bloating. That's it. Those are the signs. Allergies, the true definition of allergy is undigested protein. So again, with that knowledge, where do we have to focus our attention to begin with? With food, yeah, in our digestive system. Maybe we need some enzymes, perhaps, or maybe we just need to stop eating the stuff that we don't break down well. Sometimes our pH is too alkaline. Apple cider vinegar will regulate your pH, and sometimes people, if they eat too many citrus fruits, they have more allergy symptoms, and that can be a problem, so maybe avoiding citrus for a while. And normally when we have allergies, the mucus is clear. If it's white, that's more of a fungal kind of thing. And of course, if it's yellow or green, that's an infection type of thing, okay? I was asthmatic as a kid, and it really affected my ability to do the things that I love to do, which was dance. I remember being on a dance team, and I tried out for the dance team, and it was a pretty tough tryout, and I ended up making runner-up because I couldn't breathe all the time like everybody else could. And I remember being really disappointed in that, and it got better as I got a little bit older, but only with medication. Only with medication. I was the kid that had the albuterol inhaler in their pocket the whole time, right? But a lot of adults miss work, and a lot of kids miss school from allergy or from asthma attacks. Asthma can be viral inflammatory process. Bronchospasm occurs. What bronchospasm is the tightening of the bronchi in the tubes going to the lungs. A lot of people see relief if they avoid milk and ice cream, because what they don't realize is that they have sensitivity to dairy, and they don't realize that the sugar they're having in the ice cream particularly is causing them more problems. Avoiding processed foods is a big deal for asthmatics. Me personally, when I started as a patient in this office, that was one of the first things that got better for me, was my allergies and my asthma. And that was phenomenal. But I tell you, it took me probably a good year before I gave up my inhaler. A good year, I mean, of not having to use it. Because when you're asthmatic, you get very emotionally attached to the inhaler. So much so that if you leave house without it, you're going to need it. It's like psychosomatic, I think. So, cleaning up your diet, avoiding processed foods, very much necessary. Also, structural problems. We know in the chiropractic world that chiropractic care can also help asthma as well. And so if you don't see a chiropractor and you have asthma, I suggest you do. That can definitely help you. Adrenal dysfunction is also a big player. Environmental factors like perfumes and things that you hear asthmatics or COPDers, they can't be around perfume. They get exacerbations of their symptoms. And also having an alkaline pH, so the apple cider vinegar can help that. They say there's no cure for asthma. I beg to differ. I haven't carried an inhaler in 9 years, I became a patient in 2014, I think it was, in this office. So at least 9 years that I haven't carried an inhaler. My husband, same thing. Very rarely does he need an inhaler. He was asthmatic as a child also. So you clean up your diet and you clean up the body, get your body in better working order, your symptoms go away. That's just how it works. According to WebMD, 5 to 8%, it's probably higher now, this is probably an older statistic, have ADD, ADHD. Again, I am of the belief that this is not really that strong of a diagnosis. I think our children today are far too toxic and they eat junk all day long and they can't sit still. And I feel like the school systems love to suggest that the parents get the kids checked for this because they can't sit still. But we just looked at what they're eating for breakfast, right? So unless we alleviate those factors and then the child still has a problem, I don't think this is a legit thing we need to specifically treat. There are no tests for this diagnosis. It's based on behavior alone. These drugs that they use are stimulants and they cause all kinds of side effects. So I would definitely try diet and lifestyle changes first. These are things that I would avoid, and not just for children, but for adults too. Your processed meats, your hydrolyzed soy protein. Protein is in everything, or soy protein is in everything, or soy oil, soybean oil. Most of the soil in America, the soy in America is genetically modified. And they do that too so that it can withstand up to 5 times the amount of Roundup. Roundup is carcinogenic, and in that is glyphosate, and it destroys your collagen, so it's going to make you break down and age sooner. So that's kind of a big deal to me. You know, I feel like we're kind of in a war for our collagen, to save our collagen, which is our most abundant protein. So for sure, hydrogenated oils, like your canola oils, your vegetable oil, your corn oil, all of those, I would avoid those at all cost. And it's hard to avoid those, especially if you're eating out. Processed white sugar, high fructose corn syrup, artificial sweeteners, flavors, colors, and low fat and low sugar products. Those are just code fancy words, or not fancy, but they know what people want to read on a label. But it's just a chemical crap storm. You take the fat out, you got to put chemicals in. You take the sugar out, you got to put chemicals in to make it taste good. Otherwise, people are not going to eat it, right? It's just not going to happen. Breakfast seems to be the hardest thing for me to help people with because people love their cereal. They absolutely love their cereal. And, you know, back in October, I met with over 1,000 people in Battle Creek to petition Kellogg's to get the artificial dyes and the BHT out of their cereals and give us the formula that they use for Europe and Canada. That's all the petition was asking. It wasn't asking to change the whole formula or create a new one, and there were over 400,000 signatures that we had, and we delivered it straight to their headquarters in Battle Creek, and they wouldn't even speak to anybody. And we did that with Vani Hari. I don't know if you know her. She's better known as the Food Babe. And she led the pack. And it was a really interesting day. You know, I was happy to be able to be there, but we got nowhere. All we got was someone in the inside put a sign up on the window saying, "Get off our lawn." That's all we got from these people. That's all we were asking, was just give us the formula you give for Europe that has no food dyes and no BHT. And they wouldn't do it. And now I just read that they're selling to somebody, Kellogg's is, some sort of candy company, I think. So I wonder if what has to do with that. But anyway, cereal is people love their cereal. So breakfast is hard. So what do I say? Try to do, if you have to do an oatmeal, try a steel cut organic oatmeal. I tell my patients lots of eggs and lots of meat to start your day, because if you're going to go to work and you eat sugar for breakfast or all the grains for breakfast, by 10:30 you're going to be slumping. You're going to be tired and you're going to want to eat something, which is usually not good for you, right? If you eat mostly meat and eggs and butter in the morning, especially red meat, you're going to be sailing really great through lunch. You may not even be hungry for lunch, right? Those foods are high satiety foods. They're superfoods, okay? But certainly you can have some variety. And there you have some examples. Ezekiel bread instead of your traditional bread that's on the shelf. Why? Because it's not broken down into flour. It's sprouted seeds, grains, and nuts that are organic, and so that's a better option. You have all the things you need to digest it properly. For sure, the juices, the sugary juices, you know, even if it says 100% juice on the bottle, I get it. Even if it doesn't have extra sugar added, I get it, but it's still sugar. Fructose is still sugar, and it takes a lot of fruit to make 1 glass of sugar, of juice. It takes a lot of fruit, so you're getting a lot of fruit sugar, which is still not ideal. Lots of healthy oil every day. I find my mama bears particularly, they don't eat enough protein and they don't eat enough healthy fat. They like their salads, which I get it, it's fine, but they don't eat enough protein and they don't eat enough healthy fat. And once I start putting them into a diet that is full of protein and healthy fats, especially these fats, they start thriving. They start doing better. They start being able to resist the sugars and the grains that they once thought they were totally addicted to, because they're being more satisfied with the whole foods, especially the fat. Drinking, quality water is very important. The city water has over 50 chemicals that you can't smell or taste. I filter my water with a Berkey water filter, and I also have a tabletop water distiller. My goal is to have a whole house water distiller someday, but those are quite expensive. So good quality water. If you have to drink from a bottle, do distilled water, like Smart Water if you can, or spring water. Mountain Valley Spring comes in a glass bottle. That's ideal because, it's glass. Coconut water, I would suggest just the plain coconut water though, because they have some out there that they shove sugar into to make it sweeter. So coconut water is great for especially hot summer days to stay hydrated. Raw milk or non-homogenized milk, you can find that non-homogenized much easier than the raw milk, because the FDA doesn't want you to have raw milk unless you buy part of a cow, apparently. So there's that. But non-homogenized is at least easier to digest, because the homogenization is what messes with the proteins, and then that makes it harder for people to tolerate. Goat milk for sure, raw also if you can get it, organic teas. So where do you start? If you're a mama bear or even a grandma bear, you start with yourself first. You lead by example, because you rule the roost, right? You're going to create the meals. You're going to start changing the environment in your own home to make everyone else healthier. Okay? And so you do this gradiently. You remove sugar first, and then you remove the not so obvious sugars. That's the bread, rice, pasta stuff. You start upgrading to different foods, for pastas in my house. We don't do it much, but when we do, I use either spaghetti squash or zucchini. I'll just zoodle it, right? And then adding in the healthy fats and the protein is absolutely imperative. For me, with my son, I have a 13-year-old son, and he's an athlete. And if I could feed him red meat every single day, I would do it. Red meat, eggs, and butter, because I know that's going to make him the strongest and least able to be injured. That's my goal for him. I don't want him to be injured. And so I want to feed him all the red meat. Plus, I know when he eats red meat, he's more satisfied. If he has chicken before he goes to football practice, guess what? When he comes home, he wants more food. He's not satisfied. It's not enough. It's not satisfying enough for him. So keep that in mind. Experiment with the vegetables. Just because your kid doesn't like it the first time doesn't mean you don't try again, right? You make it a different way, perhaps season it differently, put it into something, and they don't know it's there. Just be sneaky sometimes. You got to be sneaky. But keep trying. Kids need this. Absolutely need this. They need sleep. Kids need at least 10 hours of sleep if they're growing still. A lot of kids, including my own, stay up a little too late. They need structure. They need a schedule. They need to be able to rely on their schedule and what's going on in their life. They need a schedule and a structure. They need to play. They need to play outside, not on video games. They need to play outside. They need to go to the park. They need to do whatever it is outside that they can do. Because kids need to be in nature, especially city kids, right? My kids are city kids, but they do get out in nature. Limit the PlayStation and all that, the phone, the phone time is absolutely imperative, especially before bed, because that blue light from the tablets and the phones really disrupts your circadian rhythm and your ability to go to sleep and have good quality sleep. And kids need downtime. They need quiet time down, especially little kids. Maybe reading book time is what I mean by that, okay? Here are some helpful websites. WestonAPrice.org has a lot of great nutritional advice on there and just information, journals. Rawmilk.com, if you are interested in getting some raw milk, you can find someone in your local area on that website. The Smith Family Farm, that's my farm. I give them props there because they take care of me. They also deliver locally in the Lansing area and surrounding areas. So you get on their website and order and find out when they're delivering, and then you just pay them and they'll come and deliver it right to your door. You just put a cooler outside and they'll just plop it in there. And I haven't been on those other ones in a while, but they're they can be helpful too. Okay. Not to brag, but my kids' palates are so refined that they can tell they're going to hate dinner even without even having tasted it before, right? My son is believe it or not, he is the pickier of the two of my children as far as food goes. He can look at something and go, ew. And I nursed him for 3 years. He should have the most advanced palate, right, for food. Nope, ew. And they're like, you haven't even tried it. What are you talking about, ew? Yet he once upon a time ate raw Brussels sprouts in the back of my car on the way home from the farmer's market. So it's interesting. Children are interesting, but really it does start with mom, in my opinion. So when you take any symptom that we may have, I just put asthma and allergies up there because it's just so common. Every time we have asthma and allergy symptoms, we have specific nutritional deficiencies and we have organs that are not functioning optimally. This is what happens, right? So in our clinical practice, we discover for people what their specific nutritional deficiencies are and what organs are being affected and the root causes in that clinical picture. And then we build a nutrition program specifically for them based on this data. And this is real-time data coming right from their body, real time. And as that happens with time and repetition of eating the right foods and taking the right nutritional supplements, the organs start working better. And then guess what? The symptoms come less and less. And then the deficiencies are less and the organs are working better and the symptoms are less. Does that make sense? You can put any symptom up in that box, headaches, doesn't matter, fatigue, it doesn't matter. And it's same clinical thing. Okay, we're going to find the deficiencies, we're going to find what organs are affected, and we're going to start putting in the right raw materials to get the body to do the work of handling itself. Because we know that the body can heal itself. We understand that. I have a scrape on my knee right now. It's healing. All I'm doing is keeping it clean. Right? It's going to heal and then eventually it's going to be gone. So this is just what we do to allow the body to heal itself. But you have to have the raw materials. And you can't stand at Vitamin World and look at the wall and know what to take. You just can't. I've been there. It's dabbling. You just, well, I don't want to buy the most expensive supplement, but I don't want the cheapest one either. The doctor says I need vitamin D. I read an article that says I need fish oil. right? I mean, it's you can spend your money that way, but in our clinical practice, we're able to know which specific fish oil your body wants. We have multiple types of fish oil. We have multiple types of vitamin D. We want it tailored specifically to our patients. Okay? Sugar, the same thing. Every time we have sugar, we're creating nutritional deficiencies, particularly calcium from the bones. A lot of my older people, they're really worried about osteopenia and osteoporosis, right? Whether they have the diagnosis yet or not, they're concerned about it. They're concerned about their bones, and rightfully so. So I tell them, I'm just upfront with them, look, you got to get the sugar out of your diet if you're really worried about your bones, because every time you have sugar, you're pulling calcium from your bones. You're displacing it. And then every time we have nutritional deficiencies, since this is the fuel for our organs, we can safely assume that we're going to start having organ dysfunction, right? So it's a downward spiral when that we have to put a handle to every time. Sugar in, downward spiral. Sugar in over time, because your health is never stagnant. We're either actively working on things to make them better, or we're gradiently in degeneration day after day after day. Every time our cell creates a new one, it's a lesser than quality cell. Right? And what we try to do, we get the body in good working order, so then when the body makes a new cell, it's a little bit better of a cell, and a little bit better of a cell. That's called healing. That's what we love. We do design clinical nutrition. It's specifically designed for the people in front of us. It's not cookie cutter. When you work in an ER, I worked in an ER for 20 years on and off. If you come in with CHF, she comes in with CHF, guess what? You're going to get the same protocol. It's the same order set, with the exception of your known drug allergies. You're both going to get the IV, you're both going to get the EKG, you're both going to get this and that, you know, like the diuretics, and you're going to get all the things. You might need a catheter, you might not. You know, it's cookie cutter, right? It's cookie cutter. They call it evidence-based practice. In my opinion, that's when healthcare kind of started going downhill. When the electronic order sets came in and all the things, I feel like a decline in the care and the clinical critical thinking for patients. You know, when you don't have to think about what orders you have to write. I don't know, that's just my opinion.
Click, click, click.
Yeah, you just click. Doesn't matter why you're in heart failure versus it doesn't matter. It's just you're all going to get the same thing. Not in our practice. We are designed clinical nutrition specifically for you. Okay? Do you have any questions? Okay. What we're aiming for is overall health, right? Optimize people's health and keep them there. That's what I want. That's my goal. That's my goal for all my patients. What we do is safe and natural. Why? Because it doesn't have any side effects. It's not pharmaceutical. We use whole food supplements. We use homeopathics. We use herbs. We don't have to worry about it, right? We don't have to worry about it. It doesn't have side effects. So that sounds nice to me. No side effects. I have patients who have been on some new medications, and they come to me and they're like, I have to get off this medication. I can't be on it. Why is that? Well, blah, blah, blah. I know. Okay, got it, right? So, very good. That's the end. If you don't have any questions, let me just offer to those of you who may be watching this in the future, I know it's not live streamed, but it will be posted. And so, hopefully I brought up your awareness of what it takes to have a healthy family. And now I want you to take action with that. Certainly you have the choice to not. You don't have to do it. You can just watch the video and just continue on with life. But where will you be 5 years from now? Where will you be 10 years from now? Will you have a diagnosis by then that you don't want? Will you have a chronic illness that you don't want? So, perhaps today you take action, make your health a priority, and take that first step. Call the office, 336-8880, and make an appointment. It'll be a discounted appointment if you just say you watched the Healthy Family class, and you'll get on my schedule, okay? Action. Awareness to action. That's really what it takes, right? If you read a good book and you don't do anything about it, like a good self-help book, right? I did that with Dave Ramsey back in the day, and I didn't do the snowball thing very well. He taught me how to do it, but I must have been too young and just not focused enough. I didn't do it well. And I regretted it, quite honestly, down the road. I regretted it. So, all right, thank you for watching. Stay tuned for our future workshops. They're free every month. Come in person. It's a lot more fun in person than to watch at home. I know it's summer. It's tough. Nobody wants to be inside, but bring your friends and family. We all know somebody who's suffering needlessly. All right? Good night.